If this was built today in America, most engineers would say it's impossible. Picture this. A building taller than a 40-story skyscraper, made of 6 million tons of stone, aligned to true north with crazy precision, built 4,500 years ago. No steel, no cranes, no electricity, no modern tools. If a construction company in the US today tried to copy the Great Pyramid of Giza with all our cranes, GPS, and computer models, it would still be a nightmare project. So how did ancient Egyptians do it? Who built it? And what secrets are still hidden inside, even after centuries of exploration and modern scanning with satellites and particle detectors? In this video, we'll break down 3 big questions. Who really built the pyramids? How are they built so precisely? What mysteries still remain inside them even today? And along the way, we'll also see a strange connection between the pyramids and something every American touches almost daily, the $1 bill. Let's start on the Giza Plateau, around 2600 BCE. If you fly into Cairo International Airport today and look out the window, you can sometimes see them, 3 giant pyramids rising out of the desert edge near the city. The largest one is the Great Pyramid, built for the pharaoh Khufu, also known as Cheops. Archaeologists date its construction to around 2580-2560 BCE, during Egypt's Old Kingdom, the 4th dynasty. At that time, there is no United States, no Rome, not even the idea of democracy in Greece. These stones were being stacked more than 2,000 years Julius Caesar, and about 4,000 years before 911 emergency systems, the FBI, the CIA, or the Pentagon existed. Yet the engineering would impress any modern contractor. Originally, the Great Pyramid stood about 146.6 meters tall. That's 481 feet. Today it's a bit shorter because the outer casing stones and capstone are missing, but it's still around 138.8 meters, or about 455 feet. Each base side is roughly 230 meters long. The total mass is about 6 million tons, made from an estimated 2.3 million stone blocks, most weighing 2 to 3 tons, some up to 15 tons. Now here's the crazy part. The sides are aligned to true north, south, east, and west with an error of only about 3 arc minutes. That's roughly 0.05 degrees. To put that in perspective, that's like taking the entire length of a huge airport runway and being off by just a few inches at the end. How did they do that without satellites, GPS, lasers? We'll come back to that. First, let's clear one of the biggest myths. For a long time, especially in Western popular culture, we heard the pyramids were built by slaves. Hollywood showed it, old textbooks repeated it. Even some people tried to link it to the biblical story of Hebrew slaves in Egypt. But when archaeologists actually dug around Giza, they found something very different. In 1990, not far from the pyramids, Egyptian archaeologist Zahi Hawass and his team discovered workers' cemeteries. These were tombs of the people who helped build the pyramids. Inside, they found skeletons with healed injuries, broken bones that had been set properly. They found evidence of medical care, like what you would expect near a modern hospital, not what you expect for disposable slaves. They also found remains of food, cattle, sheep, fish, and traces of bread and beer. These workers were given good quality rations. Analysis of the bones shows they had a relatively decent diet for that time. The graves themselves are not like royal tombs, of course, but they are respectful. You don't bury slaves right next to the sacred pyramid of your god king. You bury valued workers there. So what does the evidence say? Most Egyptologists today believe that the pyramid builders were not mass slave labor in chains. They were a mix of a permanent core of skilled paid workers, stonecutters, engineers, supervisors, plus rotating teams of farmers from around Egypt who worked on the project part-time, especially during the flood season when the Nile overflowed and they couldn't farm their fields. Basically, a massive national public works project powered by labor tax and patriotism, not by whips. There is no credible archaeological evidence that the Israelites of the Bible built the Great Pyramid. The timing doesn't match. The pyramids were completed around 1,000 years before the earliest evidence for Israelites in Egypt. So that's mystery number 1, who built them? Answer: organized Egyptian workers, not alien slaves, not Hebrew slaves, not some lost high-tech civilization. Now, the bigger question, how did they do it? Let's imagine this as if it were a modern construction project in the US. Today, if you want to build a big skyscraper, you have engineers with computer models, cranes, bulldozers, OSHA safety rules, and if someone is injured, you dial 911 and an ambulance shows up. Hospital care is right there. On the Giza Plateau 4,500 years ago, none of that existed, but they still managed something almost unbelievable. To build the Great Pyramid in about 20-25 years, they would have had to place on average one block every 2 to 3 minutes during daylight, year after year. So how did they cut and move so much stone? First, the quarries. Most of the pyramid core is made of local limestone quarried directly from the Giza Plateau. If you look around the pyramid today, you can still see the remains of the huge quarry area. For the outer casing, which originally made the pyramid shine bright white in the sun, they used finer Tura limestone from quarries across the Nile. For some internal chambers, they used giant granite blocks from Aswan, over 800 kilometers to the south. In 2013, at Wadi al-Jarf on the Red Sea coast, French and Egyptian archaeologists found something remarkable. The Diary of Merer, ancient papyrus documents dating to around the 27th year of Khufu's reign. Merer was an overseer. His papyri describe how his team transported limestone blocks from Tura by boat along the Nile and canals to Giza. This is the oldest known papyrus archive in Egypt, and it directly confirms that stones were moved by water. So we know, Egyptians cut the stones with copper chisels, saws, and pounding stones made of harder rock like dolerite. Then they transported them on sledges, pulled by manpower or animals, along prepared paths and by boats on the Nile. There is even an Egyptian tomb painting showing workers pulling a huge statue on a sledge, while someone pours water on the sand in front of it. Physics experiments today show that slightly wet sand can dramatically reduce friction. So no anti-gravity, no levitation. Just clever use of water, sledges, ropes, and human organization. But the real argument is about what kind of ramp system did they use to lift the stones higher. If you go online, you'll see dozens of ramp theories. One simple idea: a straight, massive ramp built from the ground all the way up one side of the pyramid. But if you calculate how big that ramp would have to be, it becomes almost as huge as the pyramid itself. Very wasteful. Others suggest a zigzag ramp up one face. Some suggest a spiral ramp around the outside. French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin proposed an internal spiral ramp, built inside the pyramid as it rose. Some micro-anomalies in the structure might support something like that, but there is no final proof yet. Egyptologists like Mark Lehner and Dieter Arnold think a combination is likely. A large straight ramp for lower levels, then smaller, more compact ramps or levering systems as the pyramid grew. What we do know for sure, archaeologists have found remains of ramps and post holes near other pyramids and quarries. We know they used wooden sledges and levers, because such tools are depicted in art and found in graves. We know they had a highly organized workforce divided into crews and gangs, with names like Friends of Khufu. So the mystery of construction is not that it's impossible. It's that we don't know the exact blueprint of ramps and techniques at every stage. Several different methods would have worked with the tools and materials documented. To understand how impressive this is, compare it to the modern US power grid. The grid is a huge, complex machine that thousands of people coordinating in real time to keep electricity flowing. If a few lines fail, you can get a cascading blackout. The pyramids were like the opposite, a giant project engineered to be incredibly stable. Once those stones were in place, no blackout. No moving parts, just permanent durability. And yet, the level of coordination, tens of thousands of workers, food, tools, housing, stone delivery, was just as complex in its own way. Now, what about the precision and the mysterious internal layout? If the outside of the Great Pyramid looks simple, a giant triangle from each side, the inside is surprisingly complicated. Inside Khufu's pyramid, there are the descending passageway going down into the bedrock, a subterranean unfinished chamber, the ascending passage, the so-called Queen's Chamber, the Grand Gallery, an impressive sloping corridor with corbelled walls, and at the top, the King's Chamber with its famous granite sarcophagus. Above the King's Chamber are a series of 5 relieving chambers, spaces meant to distribute the massive weight of stone above, discovered in 1837 by British officer Howard Vyse when he blasted his way up there with gunpowder. Even more intriguing are the narrow shafts going out from the King's and Queen's chambers, often called air shafts or star shafts. They are too small for a human to crawl through. They angle upward toward the outside of the pyramid. In the 1960s and 70s, astronomers and archaeologists noticed that at the time of construction, some of these shafts were roughly aligned with important stars, like stars in the Orion constellation and the circumpolar imperishable stars. This led to the idea that they were symbolic passages for the soul of the pharaoh to travel to the stars. Of circumpolar stars, stars that circle around the north without setting, to find true north. Using a plumb bob, viewing stick, and repeated observations, you can mark a north-south line with surprising accuracy. Some people on the internet claim that the ratios of the pyramid encode pi, or the golden ratio, phi. It's true that if you divide certain measurements, you get numbers close to these constants, but most serious Egyptologists think this is coincidence. The Egyptians were working with whole number ratios and practical geometry, not abstract, irrational numbers. However, just practical geometry was enough to create a building more precisely aligned than many modern structures. Now, if the pyramid's exterior and interior are already impressive, modern science has added a new twist. There are things inside we still haven't seen. In 2015, an international project called began using non-invasive technologies to look inside the Great Pyramid. Infrared thermography, 3D simulations, and most importantly, muon tomography. Muon tomography uses cosmic rays, high-energy particles that constantly hit Earth's atmosphere, creating muons that pass through rock and stone. By placing detectors around and inside a structure, scientists can see where muons pass more easily, revealing hidden voids or spaces. In 2017, the Scan Pyramids team published results in the journal Nature. They found a large, previously unknown void above the Grand Gallery, about 30 meters long with a similar cross-section. They called it the Big Void. This is not a little crack. It's a major internal space, large enough to be a big chamber or a series of smaller spaces. What is it, another Grand Gallery? An internal ramp? Some kind of construction gap left intentionally? Don't know yet. The Egyptian authorities have not drilled or opened a passage to inspect it, partly to avoid damaging the structure. So even today, after centuries of exploration, the Great Pyramid still hides rooms we haven't physically entered. This is a real, scientifically confirmed mystery, not paranormal, not fantasy, just something we haven't explored yet. To find it, we used high-tech detectors like something out of a Pentagon research lab, and mathematical analysis more complex than anything the original builders used. Yet they built it. We're the ones still trying to catch up to their practical knowledge. And it's not just muons. Satellites have also changed pyramid research. NASA and other space agencies have used satellite imagery, infrared, radar, high-resolution optical, to map buried structures in Egypt. Archaeologist Parkak, sometimes called a space archaeologist, has used satellite data to identify possible pyramid sites and ancient settlements under the sand. So when we say we can see the pyramids from space, it's not just a cliche. Satellites really are helping us understand the landscape around Giza and beyond. Now, how does any of this connect to the US, to everyday American life? Look at the back of a $1 bill. On the Great Seal of the United States, as printed on the dollar since 1935, there is an unfinished pyramid with an eye above it, the Eye of Providence. If you show this to people on the street in New York or Los Angeles and ask, "What is this?" many will say, "That's an Egyptian pyramid linked to Freemasons, Illuminati, maybe even the CIA or some secret global order." Conspiracy videos love this symbol. But historically, the story is much more boring and more interesting at the same time. The Great Seal was adopted in 1782, long before the CIA, the FBI, or the modern Pentagon existed. The designers, especially Charles Thompson, chose the pyramid as a symbol of strength and durability. Not specifically Egyptian magic, just this thing is solid and long-lasting. The pyramid is shown unfinished, with 13 steps representing the original 13 states. Above it is the all-seeing eye, representing divine providence, with the Latin motto, Annuit Coeptis. He has favored our undertakings. Below the pyramid it says Novus Ordo Seclorum, a new order of the ages. The founders were not secretly worshipping Egyptian gods. They were using a pyramid as a metaphor for a strong, lasting republic. Over time, Freemasons, conspiracy theorists, and pop culture layered their own meanings onto it. People imagined secret files in the CIA or FBI about a pyramid conspiracy, or the Pentagon hiding evidence that the pyramids were built by aliens. But when you look at real declassified documents, real archaeology, real physics, the picture is clear. The true story is human effort plus clever engineering. It's actually more impressive that normal human beings, with no modern machines, built something so precise that we still haven't fully mapped every internal space. Think about the scale. The Great Pyramid covers an area bigger than many US football stadiums. Its footprint could swallow several airport terminals. It has stood through earthquakes, invasions, climate shifts, while entire empires rose and fell. And yet there are still mysteries. So what are the biggest unanswered questions today? Ones that serious researchers, not YouTube conspiracy channels, are still debating. The exact construction sequence, we know the tools they had. We know where the stones came from. We have Mayer's diary for limestone transport. But we still lack a detailed step-by-step engineering record of how each level went up. Did they use a straight ramp and then switch to internal ramps? Exactly how many workers were on site at peak? How many days a year? The estimates, 20,000 to 30,000 workers, are based on food remains, housing remains, and construction rate calculations. But there's still a margin of uncertainty. The full internal layout. We know the main chambers and some shafts. But the scan pyramid's big void proves there are still major spaces we haven't reached. There may be construction cavities, hidden structural corridors, maybe even symbolic spaces that were never meant to be visited. The detailed religious symbolism. We understand the broad idea, the pyramid as a resurrection machine for the pharaoh, connecting him to the sun god Ra and the stars. The pyramid texts from later pyramids, like those of Unas and Teti, talk about the king ascending to the sky, joining the gods. But why exactly this layout for Khufu? Why this combination of chambers? Why these shaft angles? Why an unfinished subterranean chamber? Some aspects we can only guess. The fate of Khufu's mummy. The king's chamber contains a large sarcophagus, but when it was first opened in ancient or medieval times, it was empty. We don't know exactly when or how the burial was robbed. No identified mummy of Khufu has been found. It's likely his remains were looted in antiquity, but the details remain unknown. These are real historical mysteries. Not supernatural, not science fiction, just open questions where new discoveries are still possible. So where does this leave us? When many people in the US think of pyramids today, they see them through layers of pop culture and conspiracy. Aliens, lost technologies, secret societies, dollar bill symbolism, hidden files in the CIA, secret vaults under Washington, D.C. More ordinary and more inspiring. A society that organized tens of thousands of people, fed them, treated their injuries like a massive on-site hospital system, coordinated stone deliveries like a logistical chain more complex than many modern construction projects, and used the stars as their guiding GPS. If this were a project today, you'd have federal safety inspectors, union negotiations, environmental impact reports, maybe even congressional hearings on overspending. The FBI might investigate a corruption scandal if someone stole stone supply contracts. The power grid authorities would demand special lines to power cranes and cement plants near the site. Airports would schedule special cargo flights to bring in equipment. Ancient Egypt did all of it with nothing but human muscle, basic tools, and clever planning. The fact that we still need muon detectors, satellite imaging, and supercomputers to understand what they did tells you everything about how advanced we're for their time. The Great Pyramid has survived longer than any modern structure in America. Think about that the next time there's a news story about a highway bridge collapsing, a dam cracking, or a city losing power in a blackout. A building older than every US institution, older than the Constitution, older than the Pentagon, older than the very idea of the United States, is still standing almost perfectly. The deeper you look into the real history and real science of the pyramids, the less you need aliens or secret super civilizations. Ordinary human beings are already extraordinary enough. And that, in the end, is the greatest mystery the pyramids reveal. Not that we don't know who built them, but that we still underestimate what our own species can do. The question for us, with all our technology, 911 services, satellites, advanced hospitals, power grids, and global airports is, will anything we build today still be standing, almost unchanged, 4,500 years from now? The pyramids don't answer that. They just sit there in the desert challenging us to try,